Mark, you are not right. You knocked me out 3 times in one game. Three times.
We're going to go ahead and get started here in a moment. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Colo-NESCO's annual Veterans Day Assembly. Thank you to everyone in attendance today, especially our veterans. Throughout this nation's history, American soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardmen have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and to turn back aggressors. Today, it is our privilege to say thank you to all the American veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and to honor them and their sacrifice. Today, we celebrate American veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. At this time, we would please stand for the presentation of the flags and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and the playing of the national anthem.
I pledge allegiance Please remain standing for the playing of the national anthem.
Thank you, Mr. Van Gorp and the rest of the band. Mr. Buckridge's 5th and 6th grade students have been working on Veterans Day writing pieces. A few students have been chosen to read their writings aloud. These students include 5th graders Isaac Madsen, Noah Erickson, and Brady Jones. The 6th graders Ellie Abrams, Georgia Harrington, and Allie Hudson. You may be seated. Dear Gretchen, I will never fully understand what you went through, but I will recognize, appreciate, and honor each and every sacrifice you made for our country. You truly are so brave in all you do. Your hard work helps me and my family live a safe life. Find something in your life that is useful in your life every day. You can always find the light through the darkness, even on the worst days. Never forget you, my friend. Thank you for your service. Thank you for coming to help our country so much. Thank you for watching to show us for our country. You have done so many great things for us, and so thankful for everything you guys do. And show us that as we were would be great, so grateful to see you from home. We have come all of you. Thank you. Dear veterans, thank you very much for your time, your sacrifice, your bravery. Thank you thank you for all your. I have a lot of
friends like you. There are so many things I am so very thankful for. So thank you, veterans. I shall cherish America's freedom. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. Dear veterans, I want to thank you for all you have done for our country. I appreciate you risking your lives to serve our country. Thank you for making me feel safe to go to school and learn. I appreciate you making us feel happy and safe in this country. Thank you for your service. Dear veterans, thank you for your bravery in doing what you are called to do so we can safely do what we do. I want to express my gratitude for your help and support today. I really appreciate your help. Welcome home. God bless you and thank you for your help. Dear veterans, thank you for everything you have done for our country. For all the pain and sorrow of being a soldier, you have made America a safe place to live. Today, we remember all the soldiers who sacrificed so much just to make our country a good place. We look at how our country has advanced and remember this was possible without our veterans. Our veterans have experience unlike any other, and they are not quitting no matter what happened. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Buckridge, for allowing your 5th and 6th grade students to read these aloud, and thank you, 5th and 6th grade students. Mrs. Hill will now come up to introduce our guest speaker.
I could not be more honored to introduce today's speaker. And I bet out of all the things he thought he would one day do, he never thought he would be giving a speech to an entire high school full of kids. And I am not going to tell you all of the things that you can read about that are the wonderful accomplishments that Frank has done on the back of your program. Today, I'm going to, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to share a little of my story with Frank. Colo-NESCO graduating class of 2002. As many of you know, I've been here a while. Frank was one of my early students. If I had to pick anyone as a student who was going to make me or break me, it was probably going to be Frank. In the years I worked with him, it never dawned on me to say, drop and give me 20. Things might have been different if I had. If there was time, I'd share some of Frank's triumphs in the English classroom, where he and I bonded over our common interests like Iowa State and wrestling, and what was or was not appropriate classroom behavior. Frank was one of those students who made teaching fun. He usually knew where the line was, just respectful enough that when he was a little salty, he could probably get away with it, but just challenging enough to keep things interesting. Most of the time he did his work, but when he didn't, and he needed a diversion, he was pretty quick to ask me about my dog. I didn't hear a lot from Frank or about Frank when he was stationed in California doing basic training and his other certifications, but I'd hear about him now and then, like you do when students graduate and move on. I was always glad to hear that he was safe. The time when he enlisted was interesting, to say the least. There was a lot happening in the world at that time. The biggest event was the war in Iraq, which lasted from 2003 to 2011. A fair number of Colo-NESCO graduates enlisted and served in many branches of the U.S. military during that time, and a number of them went to Iraq. It was while Frank was serving one of his 3 combat action tours in Iraq that I got a letter from him. He must have been either very bored, or a CO must have decided that the soldiers needed something to keep them busy. Whatever the reason, he wrote me and I got his letter. We struck up a correspondence. He'd write me letters about the mundane things he and his buddies were doing to pass the time, and I sent him things he couldn't get in Iraq. I still can't believe some of the things that I purchased and sent to him. One of my favorites was a little bubble hula girl for the dashboard of his Humvee, and I sure hope she enjoyed her desert adventure. One time, always a teacher, I sent him a book. He sent me a letter back saying how good that book was. In my next letter, I said I was glad he enjoyed it, but I reminded him that it was supposed to be one he read when he was a freshman. Thankfully, Frank returned from Iraq. He settled in central Iowa and met his wife, Shelley James Richardson, They have 2 daughters, Peyton and Aniston, and he started his own business, Patriot Time. Almost every Veterans Day since his return, I've seen Frank, either at school for our Veterans Assembly, or because he would stop to see our social studies teacher and fellow veterans Steve Black. I don't know a lot about Frank's time as an active duty Marine in Iraq, but I know he had many friends there. Some came home, some did not. Everyone sacrificed. Literature can help us understand the things we can't experience firsthand. And one quote from the book I sent to Frank, Fallen Angels by Walter D. Myers, that has always stuck with me is, war is hours of boredom and seconds of terror. I can't even begin to understand what active combat must be like. I can only imagine it and wish it on no one. But I thank Frank, all the past and present veterans and active duty men and women for their service and sacrifice. The liberties and freedoms we enjoy are thanks to the sacrifices of Frank and other men and women like him in our armed services. So please welcome 2-star Combat Action Ribbon winner, Purple Heart recipient, and my favorite Marine, Frank Richardson.
Well, I do want to say, so I wrote a speech last night, and I'm going to get off topic here a bit. I started reading way after high school. Mrs. Hill and I were close friends. Mr. Lively, we were close friends. He slapped me upside the back of the head, just like he would when I was in high school. This time it wasn't a mistake, so that's good. Good start. There is a lot of art overseas, and I picked up reading just to kind of pass the time, but still to this day I read a lot of old books. So thanks for those books. That girl in tennis, no, sorry. Okay, so here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, veterans, and fellow citizens. Where's Miss Ellen at? You might not be asked to bring another guest speaker next year. Thank you for inviting me. And principal here. I'm going to apologize in advance. That's the swear word. But I can escort myself to your office later, it's fine. Pretty sure I know where it's at. Unless it's been remodeled, I'm not sure. Today, we gather here to acknowledge and pay respects to the brave men and women who have served the United States Armed Forces. Veterans Day is a day of great reflection, gratitude, and remembrance. A day when we honor those who have dedicated their lives to the defense of our great nation's freedom and values. In the course of our history, our veterans have made countless sacrifices, facing the throes of battle and enduring hardships most of you can't imagine. They have demonstrated unwavering courage and commitment, answering the call of duty when our great nation needed them the most. They have left families, their homes, their works, and their everyday comfort to safeguard the liberties we hold dear. Veterans Day is a reminder that freedom is not free. It comes at a significant cost, often measured in the blood, sweat, and tears of the men and women who have stood on the front lines. It is a day to reflect upon the debt of gratitude we owe these extraordinary individuals who, through their sacrifices, have secured our freedom and preserved our way of life. So, my journey started when I was a young boy, 11, 12, 13 years old. My grandfather was a Marine and served his time in the Korean War in the 50s. I spent every possible second with my grandpa, and I was always observing, listening, and learning. He was always very clean cut, dressed very sharply, was very well respected, and kept all his personal belongings intact and very organized. When he spoke, everyone listened. And it was then that I realized I was destined to be a Marine. I knew college wasn't for me, trust me. And I was always in the mud. I loved to shoot guns. So I knew when I turned 18, I was going to sign my name on the dotted line of the recruiter's office. As Mrs. Hill spoke earlier, my senior year, and hopefully final year of high school, wasn't sure. Started off quiet, normal, football practices and games, and of course lots of studying for these hard exams. But it all changed on the morning of September 11, 2001. As we know, America was under attack that morning, and the unknown feeling of what was next was weighing heavily on our minds. And at that time, I'd already signed my name on the dotted line, as well as a really good friend of mine, Mr. Matthew. We both decided to join the Marines together, and that we would have each other's backs through thick and thin. And for you veterans out there, you and I both know that our recruiters weren't 100% honest with us. We were able to join. We went through boot camp. We went through infantry training school together. But after we graduated that school, our paths took us separate directions. We were no longer a team and had to find our own way from there. We knew after graduating high school that our country was already at war, the global war on terrorism. We knew we were headed into combat in the very near future. We completed multiple combat deployments to the Middle East, and we were very fortunate to return back home, for the most part, in one piece. While in Iraq, at the ripe age of 19, I was surrounded by other 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds, all in different backgrounds, different lifestyles, different states, but we all shared the same thing. We were U.S. Marines. We were called upon to serve our country. We had each other's backs, we took care of each other, we depended on each other, and we would sacrifice our own lives to save one of our brothers if necessary. We had built a bond that could never be broken. When we returned home, we were called heroes, warriors, devil dogs. We wore our uniforms and medals on our chests proudly, like we were gods. We were proud to be returning home to America, where the country supported and loved us. And I can recall one instance. We were brought home on a civilian commercial flight from Iraq to Germany. Then from Germany to France, we stopped and refilled. And then our final stop to bang our name for a restock and refuel before flying actually back into California. And one of our officers told us, you guys can get off board, make a call home if need be, or the bathroom. And so we offloaded. Didn't want to be on that plane anymore. We've been on it many, many hours. But as we unloaded and walked down the jet bridge, we could hear cheers and clapping as I arrived to the end of the jet bridge. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The American civilians obviously knew we were coming because they formed a small walkway tunnel of people on both sides of us waving American flags, homemade signs, welcoming us Marines back into the States. And in addition to the civilian crowd, there were World War II vets, Korean vets, Vietnam vets, all shaking our hands and pat us on the back saying, "Welcome home, son," and shouting USA. Not all of us here in attendance were treated the same as I had when they returned home. And at one time in this country was divided. Some supported the troops and some hated the troops. So at this time, I'd like to ask that all Vietnam-era veterans in the crowd today, please stand if possible. Please, ladies and gentlemen, and kids, would you please join them and me and give these veterans a standing ovation and show them the support they deserve that never got to experience when they returned home. Veterans Day is not only about looking in the past. It's about recognizing the dedication and resilience of those who continue to serve today. It's a day to stand by our active duty military personnel to support them in their endeavors and ensure that they have the resources, care, and the respect they need to carry out their duties in distinction. Let us also remember the families of veterans and service members. They too have sacrificed sacrificed and supported their loved ones with unwavering dedication. The spouses, children, parents, siblings, and those in uniform play a very crucial role in our nation's defense. Often during long separations and the worry that comes with having a loved one in harm's way, they too are deserving of our gratitude and support. In closing, let us all please make a pledge to never forget the sacrifices of our veterans. Let us express our appreciation through our actions by supporting veteran organizations and, if possible, volunteering and extending our gratitude to those who have served and continue to serve. We can honor their dedication by living up to the ideals and values that I have defended. I want to say thank you to each and every veteran, active duty service member, their families for the sacrifices and service to our great nation. A special thanks to my family, my friends, mentors, sponsors, and my loving wife for all the hardships and happiness. May we always remember the price of our freedom and strive to be a nation worthy of our sacrifices. Happy Veterans Day. May God bless you in the United States of America. Several veterans.
We would now like to recognize all of the veterans in attendance today. If able, please stand when your name is read. Remain standing until all veterans have been called. Please hold applause until the end. Frank Richardson, Shelley Richardson, David Greenfield, Jerry Morrell, Larry Hostetler, Jerry Banks, Richard Malone, Steve Lively, Paul Hines, John Hunting, and Philip O'Neill. And Matt Dean. The high school choir will now perform How Do You Tell a Veteran Thank You by Carl Hudson, directed by Ryan Ward, accompanied by Taylor Moore. Thank you for attending our Veterans Day Assembly. Thank you again to all the veterans in attendance. Feel free to visit with fellow veterans. Students, please respectfully exit and head back to your classes. Thank you.